The Second Amendment is not about a technocratic judgment about maximizing or minimizing the number of people who were killed.
Here's the amount of gun violence that has happened. I think we're reaching a tipping point where we're about to hit desensitization to gun violence.
Also, this bill was written with constitutionality in mind, so I definitely had a good feeling.
That is the greatest source and strongest source of freedom in human history. That's what we need to revive.
At board of the NRA, they then put pressure on the Supreme Court, which they eventually were successful in doing.
It has been happening everywhere all the time because you, Congress, have done nothing to prevent it.
Judicial orders. The Supreme Court swoops in like a superhero, right? Picture this. The legal crusaders at the Supreme Court stepping in to put the brakes on plans for nationwide bans on rifles and mags. It's like they're the guardians of our firearm freedoms, ensuring we don't face drastic limitations on what we can own. Let's dive into this legal showdown. You've got these proposals floating around, aiming to slap countrywide bans on certain types of rifles and mags. But wait for it, the Supreme Court steps onto the scene, waving their gavel and saying, "Hold up, not so fast." Why is this such a big deal? Well, imagine waking up one day to find out that owning certain types of firearms or mags is suddenly off limits everywhere, coast to coast. That's a chilling thought for folks who cherish their Second Amendment rights. But thanks to these Supreme Court rulings, that fear gets a reality check. These rulings act like a shield, protecting our rights to own rifles and mags without facing sweeping bans. They're like the guardrails on the road, preventing us from swerving into a zone where our freedoms might get trampled. Think about it. Firearms aren't just tools. They're symbols of autonomy and self-defense for many Americans. So when there's a threat looming over these rights, it sparks massive concern. But thanks to the Supreme Court's intervention, it's like they've tossed a lifeline to safeguard our ability to own and use these firearms responsibly. It's not just about the guns and mags themselves, it's about the principle behind it all. These rulings signify a balance between ensuring public safety and respecting our constitutional rights. It's like saying, hey, we get it, safety matters, but so does preserving your rights. Sure, it's a legal tussle, but it resonates deeply with everyday folks. It's about preserving a way of life, a sense of security, and the freedom to protect what matters most. And with these rulings in place, it's a win for those who believe in responsible gun ownership without facing overbearing restrictions. So imagine the relief echoing through communities across the country, knowing that these proposed bans won't cast a dark cloud over their rights. It's a victory dance for those who cherish their firearms, knowing they won't be snatched away by broad-stroke regulations. In a nutshell, these Supreme Court rulings act as a shield, keeping nationwide bans on rifles and mags at bay, safeguarding our rights while keeping the debate around firearm regulations in check. Vivek versus Piers Morgan. Picture this fiery clash of opinions on the hot seat of a debate stage. Vivek, a Republican presidential hopeful, squares off against Piers Morgan, the outspoken advocate for anti-gun sentiments. It's a clash of ideologies, a clash of perspectives, all centered around the contentious topic of gun control. Vivek, standing firm in his beliefs, steps onto the battlefield armed not just with words, but with a deep-rooted understanding of the Second Amendment. He's not just talking guns, he's defending a way of life, a constitutional right that's as American as apple pie. And then there's Piers Morgan, known for his unwavering stance against firearms, the guy who doesn't shy away from sparking controversy with his anti-gun rhetoric. He's the voice that echoes concerns about gun violence, pushing for stricter measures, and challenging the very fabric of gun ownership. In this electrifying debate, sparks fly as these two heavyweights go toe-to-toe. Vivek doesn't back down. He's armed with facts, figures, and a solid grasp of the historical context surrounding the Second Amendment. He's there to debunk myths, challenge misconceptions, and paint a picture of responsible gun ownership. On the flip side, Piers Morgan doesn't pull punches either. He raises the alarm on the rising tide of gun-related tragedies, painting a grim picture of a society plagued by firearm violence.
The Second Amendment is not about a technocratic judgment about maximizing or minimizing the number of people who were killed.
Gun violence does not discriminate. It happens everywhere and all the time.
Let me talk to you about guns generally, because there was another horrible mass shooting in America.
Here's the amount of gun violence that has happened. I think we're reaching a tipping point where we're about to hit desensitization to gun violence.
Call on the United States Congress to ban like the one used by the sick perpetrator of this mass killing.
He's not just about discussing, he's there to advocate for what he believes is a dire need for stringent gun control measures. What makes this debate truly captivating is the clash of these contrasting viewpoints. It's not just about different opinions, it's about fundamentally different visions for America's relationship with firearms. It's a battle between those who see guns as tools of protection and those who see them as instruments of harm. Throughout this verbal showdown, both sides strive to articulate their perspectives, trying to sway not just the audience, but also each other. It's a game of rhetoric, statistics, and heartfelt convictions, each trying to outshine the other in the spotlight of public opinion. But beyond the verbal jousting, this debate represents more than just a clash of personalities. It's a microcosm of a larger societal divide, a reflection of the ongoing struggle between gun rights and gun control advocates. In the end, this debate isn't just about who wins or loses. It's about stirring conversations, challenging beliefs, and perhaps finding common ground amidst the heated discourse. It's a snapshot of democracy in action, where differing views clash, aiming to shape the future of gun policy in America. Vivek's Second Amendment advocacy. Vivek, the Republican contender, isn't just throwing around words. He's championing something fundamental, the Second Amendment. It's not just a bullet point in the Constitution, it's the cornerstone of our liberties, our freedoms, and our very way of life. When Vivek talks about the Second Amendment, he's not just reciting some old legal jargon. He's painting a vivid picture of what it means to have the right to bear arms. It's not just about guns, it's about the power it gives every American to protect themselves, their families, and their homes. He's standing there, maybe with a glint of passion in his eyes, underscoring how this amendment isn't just about firearms, it's about the bedrock of our constitutional freedoms.
The Second Amendment is about something else altogether. It's analogous to the discussion we just had about free speech. It's a different value judgment.
Those are accessories to semi-automatic rifles that increase the rate of fire.
Pro-freedom person, and so I'm not going to sit here and defend some other foolish restriction that the United States has.
Also, this bill was written with constitutionality in mind, so I definitely had a good feeling.
It's like he's saying, look, this isn't just some fancy law. It's the very essence of our rights as citizens. Vivek's not alone in this battle. He's armed with history. He's throwing it back to the days when our forefathers were drafting the Constitution, when they carved out this crucial amendment. They didn't scribble it down as an afterthought. It was deliberate, it was purposeful, and it was essential. He's probably highlighting how the Second Amendment isn't just about owning guns, defense, and a check on government overreach. It's the freedom to protect what's yours, to stand tall against any threat, be it foreign or domestic. For Vivek, this isn't just some talking point to win votes, it's a deeply held belief. It's about safeguarding a principle that defines the American spirit, a belief that citizens should have the right to defend themselves, their families, and their communities. In a nutshell, when Vivek goes to bat for the Second Amendment, he's not just defending firearms, he's standing up for the very essence of individual liberties. It's a stance that echoes through history, reminding us that our rights aren't just words on paper. They're the beating heart of what it means to be free. Dispelling misconceptions. Let's delve deeper into Vivek's articulate response to misconceptions about gun laws, diving into specific details and addressing Piers Morgan's query about a Kinder Joy egg, all while maintaining clarity and conviction. Vivek steps into the arena armed not with just words, but with a detailed understanding of firearm regulations. With a steadfast demeanor, Vivek cuts through the fog of misinformation, guiding the conversation back to reality. He stresses the gravity of responsible gun ownership, ensuring that discussions pivot around the stringent protocols in place. His aim isn't just to debunk myths, it's to instill a deeper understanding of the meticulous procedures governing firearm sales and ownership. Vivek's resolute stance isn't just about setting the record straight, it's about empowering people with accurate knowledge. He's not just addressing misconceptions, he's actively promoting a clearer, more informed dialogue around gun laws, one rooted in undeniable facts and stringent regulations. Through his articulate explanations, he underscores the necessity of a nuanced understanding when discussing such crucial matters. Legal interpretations. Navigating the legal labyrinth of the Second Amendment's interpretations isn't a stroll in the park. It's a tangled web of legal analysis intertwined with the rich tapestry of historical context. The Second Amendment's very fibers are interwoven with history's fabric, rooted in an era of muskets, militias, and a nation seeking autonomy. As legal minds grapple with its interpretation, they dance between the lines of what the Founding Fathers intended and how those intentions translate into a modern, evolved society. Each judicial interpretation is a delicate balancing act, a tightrope walk between preserving historical intent and adapting to contemporary realities. The landscape has shifted. Firearms aren't just muskets anymore, and militias have transformed into standing armies. Legal scholars juggle these elements, trying to preserve the original spirit while accommodating the evolution of society. The complexities deepen as legal analysis confronts real-world scenarios, cases that test the limits of the Second Amendment's protections.
And the Second Amendment is the one amendment that gives teeth to all of the other amendments in that Bill of Rights.
And the top of that vision is the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, which is the operating manual.
It was about repelling and keeping a foreign, in that case, started British monarchy at bay.
That is the greatest source and strongest source of freedom in human history. That's what we need to revive.
Courts weigh the fundamental right to bear arms against compelling state interests in ensuring public safety, crafting a delicate jurisprudence balancing individual freedoms and societal well-being. In essence, the Second Amendment isn't just a static sentence. It's a living, breathing entity shaped by legal precedents and historical narratives. Its interpretations are layered with complexities, intertwining past and present, and encapsulating the ongoing dialogue between constitutional principles and evolving societal norms. And within this complexity lies the continuous quest for a nuanced understanding of a constitutional right that remains both deeply rooted in history and adaptable to the changing tides of society. Understanding gun purchase laws. Navigating the terrain of gun purchase laws isn't a straightforward stroll. It's more like maneuvering through a complex maze of regulations, checks, and requirements. Let's shine a spotlight on the detailed mechanics behind firearms acquisition, diving into the intricate web of rules that govern this process. First things first, purchasing a firearm isn't a casual endeavor. It's a meticulously regulated procedure. It's not just walking into a store and picking out a weapon like browsing for groceries. There's a structured framework in place that demands adherence to specific protocols. Individuals looking to acquire a firearm must wade through a barrage of regulations. It starts with forms, paperwork that delves into personal details, background information, and sometimes even mental health histories. These forms aren't just perfunctory, they're integral in initiating the rigorous vetting process. Then comes the pivotal phase, background checks. This isn't a cursory glance, it's an in-depth investigation conducted by the FBI. They comb through databases, verifying the prospective buyer's history to ensure they meet the stringent criteria outlined by the law. But wait, there's more. State laws often add layers of requirements, creating a patchwork of varying regulations. Some states might demand additional permits, waiting periods, or specific training certifications before allowing the purchase to proceed. And let's not forget about the role of licensed firearm dealers. They're not mere sellers. They're gatekeepers entrusted with ensuring compliance. They're tasked with scrutinizing the paperwork, conducting the necessary checks, and upholding the strict standards mandated by law. Certain categories of firearms, like those classified as NFA items, involve an even more intricate process. These items, think suppressors or fully auto weapons, come with their own set of stringent regulations, involving specialized licenses, extensive paperwork, and additional scrutiny. In essence, the journey to acquire a firearm is a labyrinth of regulations. It's a process woven with checks and balances aimed at ensuring responsible ownership. Understanding the intricacies of these laws isn't just about ticking boxes. It's about comprehending the meticulous framework designed to uphold safety, accountability, and the balance between individual rights and public welfare. Founders' intentions. Peering into the annals of American history unveils a critical piece of the nation's foundation, the Second Amendment. To truly grasp its essence, we journey back to the era when ink met parchment, and the Founding Fathers etched this constitutional cornerstone. Picture this: a fledgling nation, freshly liberated from colonial rule, grappling with the task of forging a new identity. It was an era steeped in revolutionary fervor, where freedom and independence were the rallying cries echoing across the land. In this tumultuous period, the Founding Fathers, armed with ink and ideals, crafted the United States Constitution. Among its pillars stood the Second Amendment, born not merely as an afterthought, but as a deliberate safeguard, a sentinel protecting the newly minted freedoms. At its core lay a fundamental belief, a belief that a well-regulated militia, composed of ordinary citizens, served as a bulwark against tyranny. It wasn't just about firearms, it was about a nation's right to self-defense, an inherent check on government overreach, and a symbol of individual autonomy. The founders, drawing from historical grievances against oppressive rule, embedded this amendment as a shield for the people to protect themselves, their families, and their communities. It was a nod to the essential role of armed citizens in safeguarding liberty. But it wasn't solely about the immediate threats of the time. It was a forward-thinking provision, an acknowledgement that a nation's strength lay not just in standing armies, but in an empowered citizenry. It was proof of the belief that individuals should have the means to protect their freedoms, should the need ever arise. Yet the interpretation of these intentions has evolved through the sands of time. The muskets of yesteryear have transformed into modern firearms, and the context of militias has shifted. As society evolved, so did the debates around the Second Amendment, sparking discussions about its relevance, scope, and limitations in a vastly changed landscape. The Second Amendment wasn't just a stroke of a pen, it pointed towards the founders' foresight. Aspirations of a nation. NRA's impact. The National Rifle Association stands as a titan in the realm of Second Amendment advocacy, wielding considerable influence in defending and championing gun rights. Its impact reverberates through the corridors of power and resonates within the hearts of millions who staunchly support the right to bear arms. The NRA's journey traces back to its roots as a grassroots organization, initially established to promote firearm proficiency and safety among American citizens. Over time, it evolved into a powerhouse, not just advocating for gun rights, but shaping national conversations and policies surrounding the Second Amendment. However, it's essential to recognize that the NRA isn't the sole player in the arena. While it occupies a prominent position, numerous other organizations contribute significantly to the cause of defending Second Amendment rights. Groups like Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, and Second Amendment Foundation actively engage in legal battles, grassroots activism, and educational efforts, contributing immensely to the defense of gun rights.
Today's decision, which gun safety advocates are declaring a big victory.
And then, as the NRA got more political and became less apolitical,
that this bill would ban weapons that are in common use in the United States today.
At board of the NRA, they then put pressure on the Supreme Court, which they eventually were successful in doing.
The landscape of advocacy isn't confined to big-name organizations alone. Countless local groups, activists, and communities fervently champion the cause, standing on the front lines to protect what they perceive as a fundamental constitutional right. Acknowledging the NRA's influence doesn't discount the contributions of other organizations and individuals. It's a tapestry woven by various entities, each adding its thread to the fabric of Second Amendment advocacy. The collective efforts of these diverse voices amalgamate into a chorus, resonating the shared belief in the right to bear arms. While the NRA's influence in advocating for Second Amendment rights is undeniable, it's essential to recognize the broader ecosystem of organizations and individuals contributing to the cause. Their combined efforts form a mosaic, reflecting the multifaceted nature of defending and upholding a constitutional right cherished by many. Political implications. Vivek's firm stance on the Second Amendment isn't just a mere position, it's a political cornerstone that resonates deeply within the landscape of American politics, His unwavering advocacy for gun rights isn't just a talking point, it's a potential game changer, shaping perceptions and stirring conversations among voters. In the intricate mosaic of political ideologies, Vivek's staunch support of the Second Amendment positions him as a torchbearer for those who prioritize individual liberties and gun rights. His vocal advocacy becomes a rallying cry, attracting those who prioritize the preservation of their right to bear arms as a fundamental aspect of American freedom.
The purpose of the Second Amendment actually wasn't to allow people to have the freedom to hunt. That's not what it's about.
Nobody can seriously argue that you have to have this kind of a weapon for self-defense.
It's a mutually assured destruction relationship between the citizens and their government, between the governed and their government.
Right.
It has been happening everywhere all the time because you, Congress, have done nothing to prevent it.
Within the realm of voter perceptions, Vivek's stance on the Second Amendment carries weight. For those who prioritize gun rights, his unwavering commitment becomes a beacon, symbolizing a candidate aligned with their core beliefs. It resonates with voters who perceive the right to bear arms as an integral part of their identity and values. Conversely, his stance might also spark debates and discussions among those advocating for stricter gun control measures. It could lead to critical scrutiny and opposing viewpoints, potentially influencing voter decisions based on their beliefs regarding gun regulations and public safety. However, in the political tapestry, Vivek's stance on the Second Amendment isn't isolated. It's intertwined with a myriad of other policy positions and societal issues. While it might strongly resonate with a specific segment of voters, it might also provoke contrasting reactions from different demographics, shaping a nuanced perception of his overall political stance. Vivek's unwavering support for the Second Amendment could potentially solidify his standing within specific political spheres, attracting support from groups and individuals deeply invested in gun rights advocacy. It could galvanize grassroots support, potentially impacting voter turnout and engagement among those passionate about this particular issue. All in all, Vivek's stance on the Second Amendment carries significant political implications, resonating deeply within certain voter segments while potentially prompting debate and scrutiny among others. It's a thread woven into the fabric of his political identity, one that could both attract fervent support and invite critical examination within the diverse landscape of American politics. Public reception. The Vivek-Piers Morgan debate on gun control triggered a whirlwind of diverse reactions and perspectives across the spectrum of public opinion. Like sparks igniting a heated conversation, their discourse became a focal point, drawing varying reactions from different corners of society. For some, Vivek's articulate defense of Second Amendment rights resonated deeply. Those staunchly in favor of gun rights found solace in his arguments, applauding his unwavering stance against potential restrictions. They saw him as a champion defending individual liberties, a voice articulating their own beliefs and concerns. Conversely, others viewed Piers Morgan's anti-gun position as a call for stricter regulations, a plea for enhanced public safety and gun control measures. Those advocating for tighter restrictions found validation in Morgan's arguments, seeing them as a necessary step toward curbing gun-related violence and ensuring community well-being. The discussion's impact extended beyond mere viewpoints. It sparked a broader discourse on societal values, constitutional rights, and public safety. It became a catalyst for conversations around the delicate balance between individual freedoms and societal responsibility, stirring debates in communities, workplaces, and online forums. The Vivek-Piers Morgan exchange likely served as a litmus test, revealing the stark divisions and complexities within American society regarding gun control. It illuminated the deeply entrenched beliefs and emotional connections people hold regarding this contentious issue, fostering a richer understanding of the divergent perspectives at play. The discourse wasn't confined to a binary for or against gun control. It delved into the nuances and intricacies of policy, rights, and societal implications. It urged individuals to grapple with multifaceted questions, balancing personal freedoms with public safety, navigating constitutional rights amid evolving societal needs. Furthermore, the debate's resonance wasn't restricted to a specific demographic or region. It rippled through various segments of society, sparking introspection, dialogue, and in some cases, a reaffirmation of previously held beliefs. In essence, the Vivek Piers-Morgan discussion on gun control wasn't just a clash of opinions, it was a catalyst for a broader societal conversation. It prompted reflection, engaged diverse perspectives, and laid bare the complexity of an issue deeply embedded within the fabric of American society. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.